nobody wins in an environment where people aren't discussing things. In my head. Hey everybody, so I'm going out for a walk here in another wooded area that I've never come to before, which should be interesting. Hopefully I don't get lost this time. And by the way, I wanted to show you, I did actually get lost. In case you thought like I made that up for some reason for the video, I'm going to show you if you have, if you don't like to see cuts, or it's not that bad, but if you're somebody who maybe self-harms, this might be triggering for you, but I just want to show you. So this is my leg, and this is what happened. I don't know if you can see all the different like marks and stuff. I fell into a pit of brambles trying to get out of that park before it got dark, which actually was already dark. So it was already dark and I was like rushing to get myself out of there, and I wound up having to do a cut through, and I had to step over a bunch of brambles that were on a hill. I wound up going down into the brambles and cutting up my leg. If you're new here, please stick with me. I will get to more interesting topics. I'm talking about mental health. Today I think I'm going to talk about some controversial stuff, not necessarily mental health related, but kind of just this video is going to be about me talking about my mental health and talking about things that are going on in my life and this web series that I'm creating here on this channel. So let's walk and talk together, because the scene that I'm looking at is really cool and I want you to see it with me. So I'm going to have to change this in my video editing software, which I did a couple of times already because it looks really, really bright on the camera and it's not this bright in person. Alright, so I wanted to talk about, well, let's start with the web series because that's probably what you're most interested in. I have started writing some characters. For those that don't know, I'm going to be doing a web series here on my channel. It's just something that I dreamed up a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was a cool idea. I thought it was a good way to kind of make mental health a little bit more relatable, so that, I don't know, sometimes when we talk about mental health, we can get very abstract about it and clinical, and I think it doesn't always click for people until they hear stories. And I can talk about myself. I don't want to talk about myself sometimes because some of the things that I went through are personal. There's some things I don't feel comfortable talking about. So I figured if I make characters up, then I can talk about the character's experience and I can help you relate to what they're going through, and you maybe see some of yourself reflected in them. I don't know. It just sounded like a cool idea to me, so I'm pursuing it. I have a few videos here where you can see I've been shopping for clothes for some of these characters, and I'm having fun with it. One thing walking through the woods is teaching me is that I'm so out of shape, which I already knew. I started stretching a couple of days ago, doing just like basic stretches, like split stretches for my legs, because most of my day is spent sitting down online. If you guys don't know, I am online all the time. I'm always scrolling Facebook. I am always on YouTube watching videos, just because that's how I feed my mind. That's how I don't know, that's just how I relate to the world. It's how I've made a lot of friends, and it feels very natural to me. So you'll find me online, you see me here, and I would like to express some more of my opinions. So let's do that as I continue walking. Something else I need to remind myself to do, because I switched this over to the 4K, even though it's not going to upload to YouTube in 4K, is that I need to delay when I speak, because the past couple of videos I lost some words, and I apologize if that happens in this video today. This is such a cool little trail, isn't it? It kind of like winds around. I mean, you can see the street. I don't know if you can see through the trees. There we go, there's a car. So it's not like I'm totally removed from society or anything, but it just feels good to be out in nature and not feel like I'm in a suburb, because I'm not a big fan of being in the suburbs. It doesn't feel fulfilling to me. So this is exciting to me. Okay, so let's get back to my opinions. So something that I do a lot on Facebook, which you don't see me so much doing on YouTube, is argue. I argue a lot, and it affects my mental health sometimes, because I'm okay with people disagreeing with me. I have gotten into so many arguments by now that that's not like a big deal to me. But sometimes when you get into discussions and debates and heated arguments with people, it can get very isolating, because people will unfriend you, people will gang up on you, and it feels like people aren't safe anymore when you can't have a conversation with people and you can't discuss things. especially when they're things that are you're passionate about, like you identify with the things that you're arguing about, and it feels like other people are trouncing on top of your identity. That can be disheartening to have those arguments. So let's talk more about this. All right, I'm kind of losing track of my thought already because I'm in a place that I'm not very familiar, and I'm kind of looking around. There's different paths I can take, and I don't want to get lost again because sundown is coming. The trees are blowing here and it's getting dark and cloudy. So, all right, distractions out of the way, my opinions. When you argue with somebody, this is something that I've learned and I've had to like feel for myself. I'm getting a little closer to the camera. I'm sorry for my big face because I worry that the wind is gonna drown out my voice. But when you argue with somebody, if you get to the point where you're just telling them that they're wrong and you don't have a reason to back that up, you're just saying, well, you're wrong. I feel like that's just being narcissistic, and you're saying that you're better than them because your word just matters more. And so I feel like that's not a fair way to discuss things with people. Now, I am somebody who loves to discuss things with people. I don't care if you have a completely opposite opinion of me. That's perfectly fine. We can argue about it. We can get heated about it. We can dislike each other's opinion, and that's okay. I can still see you as a human being, and I can still talk to you and discuss things that aren't related to the topic that we're discussing. So I get disheartened when people shut you down. They tell you that your opinion doesn't matter. They unfriend you because I feel like that's just a narcissistic way of dealing with the distress that you're feeling inside of yourself. If you're going to argue, you should be able to argue based on something, facts, based on values and ideology. You should have a reason why you believe the things that you believe, and you should be able to argue on those merits. Now, people can believe very different things. However, science in particular, and psychology as a science, has explanations for why things happen. We measure them, we validate them, and we don't just make it up out of the air. And while I'm on this topic, I know I'm kind of spinning out of control here. I'm a big believer in science. However, I'm also a believer in spirituality, and I'm a believer in philosophy, and I'm not so much a believer of religion. But what I want to say here is that spirituality, science, religion, philosophy, all of these, sociology, all of these kinds of things can coexist together. You can have science and spirituality mixed. They don't have to be mutually exclusive of each other. So when you give me a spiritual reason why you think something's happening, that's okay, but be able to speak my scientific language. And if I'm having a scientific discussion with you, I will try to speak your spiritual language. We can still meet in the middle somewhere. We don't have to get so entrenched in, well, science is the right way and spirituality is the right way. Of course, I'm always going to believe that science is the right way because science is testing what's happening right here, right now. It's not holding out some ideal. But regardless, I can still talk to you in your language and you can talk to me in mine, and we can try to come somewhere in the middle. That's what mentalizing is. That's what empathy is. That's the purpose of having these discussions in the first place, is to refine our values, refine the way that we see things, refine our way of relating to people, and learn to be comfortable with those distressful feelings. You know, somebody could tell me, you should die because you're gay or something, and I might come back at them with something strongly worded, but I can still have a discussion with them. I can still say, well, why do you think that? Like, what the hell makes you think that? And I can still learn about them, and I can still coexist with them, even though they feel that way, up until the point when they act on that and they start infringing on my rights. Then I'm going to get louder, then I'm going to speak up more, and you're not going to shut me up. And this is true for anything. You know, if you feel like your rights are being infringed on, maybe you're a straight person and you feel that your rights are being infringed on, I would highly disagree with that. But voice it, speak it out loud, and don't shut down people who disagree with you, or there's nothing, nobody wins in an environment where people aren't discussing things. And this is very true in mental health too. I think a lot of us, we shut ourselves down, we don't voice ourselves, and when we do that, we don't grow as a field. We don't grow as people when we don't learn what other people are going through. Okay, I'm going uphill. This is maybe going to be a long video. I may have to split this into two parts because I just feel passionate today. Now, when it comes to mental health in particular, a lot of us, I think, we stay quiet and we don't challenge what other people's beliefs are. We don't challenge the way that they feel. We shut down and we say, well, you didn't go through what I went through, so you have no say in this. And again, shutting down that discussion isn't benefiting anybody. You know, I'll give you an example. There's a lot of people who believe that we shouldn't use the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual. We shouldn't have labels for disorders. They're stigmatizing and they're bad. And we should use spiritual labels, for example. That's something that I personally disagree with. But I can have that discussion with somebody and we can learn from each other. Why do we feel that way? Why do I feel so strongly that we should have labels? And why does this other person feel like that is harmful to have labels? And we may not change our opinions, that's not the goal, but we can learn how other people look at things in the world, and in doing so, gain empathy for the other position. We may have a clarity in the way that we discuss things, and we can learn a little bit more about why we hold on to the values that we do have. We may actually change our minds. It's okay to change your mind. Ooh, hi, I'm running out of breath here. I'm a little too passionate and I'm walking a little too fast, so I'm going to take a little break, maybe just show you a little of the scenery for a second. Okay, well, as I walk and kind of slow down and catch my breath here, I do find that people, and I found this in myself particularly, when we've been through an abusive situation and somebody questioned us and they were rude about it, they hit us maybe, they emotionally abused us, and part of that involved questioning. Oop, I got interrupted by a dog. Maybe you saw it in the frame. So what I was trying to say was we sometimes get questioned too much. And when we're questioned and we're emotionally abused and it's very hurtful to be questioned, we sometimes generalize that feeling to anybody who's questioning us. And so when we get questioned on anything, we feel like it's an attack, when it's really not an attack. A lot of people, when they ask a question, they want to know somebody else's opinion. They want to know, why do other people feel differently from me? And so you have to at least explore that. Otherwise, you don't have these conversations that can be really enriching. So something people maybe don't know about me, I used to be much more of a racist person. My thoughts were that certain races were less than, or they acted in certain ways, and I actually believe these things. I also used to believe that transgenderism was nonsense, that, you know, if we allowed transgender people to just do whatever they wanted with their bodies, what's to stop them from growing wings because they feel like they're a butterfly or something? And now I know how ridiculous that is, and I understand transgenderism, but if I didn't open myself up to listening to other people, then I never would have had the opportunity to refine why I thought that was true and change my attitude. So I live much happier now, actually, with this belief that it's okay for transgender people to be who they are, without these beliefs that I used to have about people of different races, because I can be more accepting of life as it is and not have to hold on to this belief and this value that's not actually helping me. It's not helping anybody else in the world. It's just something that I'm holding on to in a very much an OCD, like an obsessive compulsive personality disorder way, where you hold on to a belief, but the belief doesn't necessarily have a purpose. You're just doing it because. If you can let go of that and just open yourself up to the uncomfortable possibility that there are other ways for things to be, that's when you start to have empathy for people, and that's when you start to learn and grow and mature as a person, because you become adaptable to the world and you don't feel so threatened by things. All right, so I'm like temporarily out of the forest area. There's a pool over here, and I think this means that I'm about halfway through. I'm sorry if it's very windy and the wind is coming through. I can't do much about that. So I believe I'm halfway through here. Hopefully I can get through to the other side, because this is a circle, this trail, and get out of here without any incidents. Let me show you the sky. Do you see the clouds moving quickly? Okay, Okay, so you can't see this in the camera, but this wooded area is very dark, so I need to haul my butt if I want to get out of here okay today. I should be fine. Now, when it comes to mental illness, it's really difficult because often the people who are passionate about mental illness and passionate about mental health issues, they've experienced something themselves, whether it be themselves or it be somebody that they know. And when you have these discussions, there's a lot of emotion involved, there's a lot of suffering that people have gone through, and it's very easy to get derailed and start to either attack somebody else or feel attacked by somebody else and lose sight of the actual discussion and trying to come to a consensus on what is the best way to manage whatever it is that you're talking about, whether that be I'm stepping through a whole bunch of disgusting dirt. Whether that be how do we diagnose people, how do we treat people, how do we discuss mental illness, what label should we use? You know, there's a lot of different topics out there when it comes to mental health and mental illness. This field is like so much bigger than I think people realize it is, which is why I started a channel on it. And I'd love to see more people talking, and I guess that's what I'm really kind of getting at here, is that if we're not talking about it, if we're not having the hard conversations, then nobody's benefiting, nobody's learning, and we all just keep our experiences inside and we suffer in isolation, and there's no need for that. We should be discussing these things. We should be helping each other, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it doesn't feel good, because at the end of the day, discussion is what brings these issues to light, and discussion is what helps us come together to solve problems. Okay, let's see. Where am I? I can kind of like look outside of the forest, see where I am and get an idea. I think I'll be okay. It is getting dark very quickly, as usually happens in the woods.